WNBA, they're having troubles with tickets now.
Kelly is in prison and the WNBA's having trouble selling tickets. Sipping on coke and rum, none of these players can dunk. Angel Reese layups looked like they were attempted while drunk. Oh, the ticket prices continue there.
The WNBA just got hit with a reality check, and it's a kind nobody wanted to see coming. With Caitlin Clark sidelined, ticket prices are falling faster than a rookie under pressure in crunch time. We're talking massive drops, the kind that even the league's most loyal supporters are struggling to spin into anything positive. This isn't just a dip in demand. It's a wake-up call about how much the league is relying on Clark to drive interest, engagement, and revenue.so. Here's the big question. How much do you think Caitlin Clark's absence is really impacting the WNBA's bottom line? Drop your thoughts below, because this might be a turning point for the entire season.
This headline came down today. WNBA television ratings down more than 50%. We should probably do a study on that. I'm not sure why that would be. Wait.
All right, let's talk about what just went down, because this is a serious blow to the WNBA. Caitlin Clark has officially been ruled out of today's game against the Los Angeles Sparks due to a left groin injury, and the impact is being felt across the entire league. This isn't just bad news for Indiana. It's exposing just how much the WNBA is leaning on one player to keep interest alive. The numbers? Honestly, they're hard to ignore. With Clark's status now in question, ticket prices for the Fever's upcoming clash, a highly anticipated matchup featuring Paige Buchers and the Dallas Wings, have taken a nosedive. We're talking about a 40% drop. Just hours earlier, tickets were going for close to $100.
Off the bench
Now,
for Cardoso.
some are dipping just above $50. That's not a coincidence. That's the Caitlin Clark effect. And without her, the market is responding fast and loud. The league has been riding a historic wave of momentum, largely driven by Clark's popularity and star power. But this latest development highlights a critical issue. What happens to that momentum when she's not on the court?
Reminder, ladies of the WNBA, she is the rising tide. This is not Fever games just down. This is league ratings since she got hurt, down 55%. So, she is essentially the sun at the beach. If she's not out...
Let's be honest. Caitlin Clark isn't just a rising star in the WNBA. She is a tide that's lifting the entire league. And now that she's injured, that tide is pulling back fast, exposing some uncomfortable truths the WNBA doesn't want to admit. This isn't just a Fever issue. This is league-wide. Since Clark went out with her latest groin injury, WNBA ratings have plummeted by 55%. That's not a slump. That's a full-scale collapse. She's not just a player. She's the sun in the sky right now. And without her shining, the whole system looks dimmer. And here's what makes it all worse. This isn't even the first time it happened this season. Clark is now missing her 6th game of the year. Remember, this is the same athlete who never missed a single game in college. But in her 2nd pro season, she's already out multiple times. That's not a great look for a player who's supposed to be the face of the franchise and the future of the league. And the market is reacting immediately. Let's go back to earlier this season when Clark was dealing with that quad injury. Tickets for the Fever versus Mystics game dropped 47% after her injury announcement. But that's nothing compared to what happened next. The Fever's highly hyped rivalry matchup with the Chicago Sky on June 7th, prices crashed by 71%, from $86 to just $20. In some cities, tickets dipped as low as $3. Yes, $3 for a professional basketball game in 2025. That's not a discount. That's a market collapse. The real embarrassment, though, is what happened behind the scenes. Teams around the league have been gearing up to cash in on the Caitlin Clark effect. The Sky even moved both of their home games against Indiana from their smaller Wintrust Arena to the massive United Center, expecting a flood of fans. The Mystics relocated their May 2025 matchup to Baltimore's 11,000 plus seat CFG Bank Arena, all in anticipation of a Clark appearance. But when the injury news broke, those arenas suddenly looked very empty. That it's not just unfortunate, it's revealing. These organizations bet big on Clark being healthy, being available, and being the draw. But the moment she's sidelined, the crowds vanish, the hype disappears, and the financial reality hits hard. And that raises a massive question for the league. Is the WNBA ready for a future that doesn't revolve around one player? Because if Caitlin Clark can shift the entire ecosystem with one injury report, that's not star power, that's overdependence.
No, she's back. Asia Wilson, it's not a lack of talent. Popularity and production are hard to measure. Remember how popular John Daly was on the tour? Smoking and 16 Diet Cokes a day. He was wildly more popular than every golfer not named Tiger Woods. Allen Iverson got to one finals. He was wildly popular. He had cultural significance. I'm not here to tell you why. And Caitlin Clark, like Iverson's a great player, but she equals ratings, revenue, and relevance. And those three things, the WNBA is dying for. So pro sports, even our business, is an attention economy. And some people just get attention. And everybody's trying to grab their slice of equity or space. So be nice, WNBA players, to the lady that currently has her leg up.
Let's be honest about what these numbers really reveal. In 2025, when the Indiana Fever hit the road, ticket prices for those games average around $106 to $130, a 125% spike compared to what teams typically charge when hosting anyone else. That's not just a boost. That's a Caitlin Clark surcharge. When she's healthy and playing, demand skyrockets. When she's not, prices crash. Interest fades. Revenue tanks. That kind of dependency on a single player isn't just risky, it's unsustainable for a professional sports league. But that's exactly the position the WNBA has found itself in, whether they want to admit it or not. Take the Dallas Wings, for example. They moved their upcoming game against the Fever to the American Airlines Center, home of the NBA's Dallas Mavericks, specifically to accommodate the expected demand for the Clark versus Paige Bucher showdown. It was a historic move, the first time the Wings shifted a home game from their usual venue at UT Arlington, and now ticket prices are plummeting because Clark might not even suit up. That's a brutal blow, not just financially but symbolically. They banked on the Clark effect, and now they are paying for it. Here's the really eye-opening part. The average resale price for Fever games during Clark's expected absence through June 10th has dropped to around $80, down from $130 before the injury news broke. That's a 42% decline in value across multiple games because one player's out, and it's not just road games taking the hit. Even at home, the Fever are seeing a drop in demand. Their May 30th matchup against the Connecticut Sun and their June 3rd game versus the Washington Mystics are both seeing softer ticket markets than usual. People aren't willing to pay premium prices if Clark isn't on the court, even in Indiana. This isn't a knock on the rest of the roster. There's talent, there's potential. But it's clear the public's interest is heavily tied to one name. That level of dependency is dangerous. If the WNBA is serious about long-term growth, it needs to find a way to build stars, not just ride one.
Couldn't it just be that Caitlin Clark is like one of the most talented
She is
women
talented.
basketball players
There's no question
in the history of the country? She comes along, she does amazing things, and then people say people say all of a sudden I'm now interested in something I wasn't before. Look at the attendance, look at the viewership, and then they watch the games, and she's constantly being abused. She was stabbed in the eye last night.
She was not stabbed
in the eye.
See, that's what I'm talking about. And by the way, why don't you bring up that elbow that she gave another player on the court?
Let's talk about the part nobody wants to admit. Where are all those longtime WNBA fans who claim the league doesn't need Caitlin Clark to thrive? Because if the data is telling us anything, it's this. Without Clark, the league is on shaky ground. The numbers are undeniable. The two highest-rated WNBA games of all time on any network featured Caitlin Clark. One drew 2.7 million viewers on ABC, Indiana versus Chicago, May 17th, and another pulled in 2.3 million, Indiana at Chicago, June 23rd. She's not just moving tickets. She's driving TV ratings at historic levels. But here's where it gets messy. Clark missed Indiana's recent 85-75 loss to the Los Angeles Sparks, and the Fever looked completely lost. That performance only added fuel to the narrative that the team, and by extension the league, is dangerously dependent on her. Now let's break down the business fallout. When a single player's absence has broadcast executives sweating and ticket sellers slashing prices, your model has a problem. The league says it wants to be treated like a serious professional sports entity. But when you take one player off the court and ticket prices collapse by 40 to 70%, it tells a much darker story. Just look at what happens without Clark or Dallas Page Buchers in the lineup. Ticket prices drop an average of 17.8% across the league. That's not the mark of a healthy sports ecosystem. That's a red flag showing just how few truly marketable stars the league has cultivated. And Caitlin Clark? She's already missed about half of the Fever's games this season due to a quad and groin injury. This is the same player who never missed a single game in college. That transition from Iron Woman to injury-prone in year 2 is raising eyebrows and concerns about how she's being managed. The response from the market? Brutal. According to TickPick, the average ticket price dropped from $200 to $95, with some seats falling from $86 to just $25, practically overnight. We're not talking minor dips. We're talking complete market corrections the moment Clark is out. And it's not just a local issue. The June 27th matchup between Clark and Buchers was supposed to be the WNBA event of the summer. Fans had circled the date since the 2025 draft. Now, it's just another regular season game because Clark can't stay healthy, and the league is watching millions in potential revenue vanish. The IT goes deeper than ticket sales. Let's not forget the Chicago Sky moved both of last season's home games against Indiana to the United Center, where average resale prices peaked at $386. They were making serious money on the Clark effect. Now, that same Fever versus Sky ticket dropped from $86 to $25 just 2 days after her injury announcement. That's how fast the market reacts to her absence. Even more revealing, they still managed to sell out the United Center with 19,496 people in attendance, but only after drastically discounting prices. Without Clark, they would have never moved that many tickets at full price. And here's where it hurts most: broadcast exposure. Over the next 4 games, Indiana is set to appear on national TV 4 times: NBA TV, CBS, and ION. Those networks paid for Clark. Instead, they're getting a depleted Fever squad without its biggest star. The WNBA's entire financial model has been exposed. It's not built on a foundation of league-wide talent. It's built on one name. And every time that name goes down injured, the whole system wobbles. It's ironic, really. Clark faces more criticism than any other player in the league. Yet the minute she's not there, everyone realizes just how essential she is. Even analysts who have doubted her admit that she's shown more resilience under pressure than many of the so-called GOATs. And when you zoom out, the bigger issue becomes impossible to ignore. Only 2 players, Caitlin Clark and Paige Buchers, move the financial needle in a 12-team league. That's not star power. That's star scarcity. We're in Clark's second season, and the league still hasn't developed enough compelling stars to support her spotlight. That's a failure of marketing, storytelling, and vision, and the WNBA's treatment of Clark? That's another conversation entirely.